Welcome to the 4Heroes podcast. Today, Chaplain Frank Mercer completes his messages on God's 10 words to live by, the 10 commandments. This final command may sound a little less intense than the others. The offense of being envious or jealous may seem minor, but Frank teaches how these feelings can often lead to destructive, selfish, and sinful choices. Envy leads us into thought patterns and behaviors that don't reflect God's character. Feelings of jealousy also mean that we are doubting or belittling God's provision in our lives, as well as His sovereignty. The truth is, He is good, and He sees your needs and desires. Let's get into it.
Well, happy Monday, everybody.
Hello, happy Monday.
Super nice to see your smiling faces. I sent you a text last night. Let me play you just a snippet, see if you can name this tune. I'll bet you can. I can't get no satisfaction. 1965 at a hotel in Clearwater, Florida.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
Keith Richards is sleeping and wakes up with this guitar riff in his head, and he reaches for his tape recorder. He plays the guitar riff into the tape recorder and goes back to sleep. The next morning, he sees Mick Jagger in the lobby. I guess they're doing the continental breakfast or whatever, and he says, "Hey, I got this idea for a song. Got a great guitar riff. Don't have any lyrics except for the title. I think it's going to be I Can't Get No Satisfaction." And that day, Mick Jagger sat out by the pool in a lounge chair in Clearwater, Florida, and wrote the lyrics to a song that's title got shortened to Satisfaction, which is not about satisfaction at all. It's all about not being satisfied. I can't get no satisfaction. And neither can most people I know. Always looking for something newer, something shinier, something skinnier, something faster, something bigger, something better. That's why we have commandment number 10. Here it is. Commandment number 10, Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, which gets interesting in the KJV, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. What does it mean to covet? The Hebrew word means to have a strong desire for something I have no right to have. For instance, I have no right to possess my neighbor's wife. I have no right to possess his house or anything that belongs to my neighbor. It's always been kind of interesting to me that coveting even makes this list. I mean, you got some heavy hitters on here, you know. No idolatry, no adultery, no murdering, no stealing, you know. Heavy hitters. And then we follow up with don't covet. You know, and you feel like, well, maybe God's just kind of rounding up. He's got 9. It feels like it ought to be 10. You know, it doesn't feel complete. It's like having 9 fingers or 9 toes. You just really need that 10th one. But it's not number 10 because it's an afterthought. It's number 10 because it kind of ties everything together. It's almost the root of so many of the other commandments. I mean, why do people commit murder? Why do people steal? Why do people commit adultery? It's because they want something they have no right to. That's where sin starts. It doesn't start with the behavior. It starts with the desire, with this craving, this yearning, this mindset. Coveting isn't as obvious as some of these other sins, which is part of what makes it so insidious. It's invisible. It happens, and your neighbor doesn't even necessarily know it's happening. I'm going to say it's an effort to improve on God's blessings in your life. So you believe that life is not fair. Why do I always get the fuzzy end of the lollipop? Life is not fair, which was really just another way of saying that God is not fair. God has passed out all the cookies, and all I got were a handful of crumbs. So I'm accusing God of failing to provide. It's an expression of doubt in that sense, doubting God's wisdom, doubting God's justice. Why do the wicked prosper? That question gets asked a lot in the Psalms. I'm doubting God's sense of justice. I'm doubting God's timing. I'm doubting God's goodness. I'm doubting God's love and care for me. And it's not just that I'm doubting God, it's that I'm actually blaming God because He passed out the cookies and all I got was this handful of crumbs. He's the reason I'm so unhappy. Not sure He can be trusted at all. That's where coveting takes you. It fosters these twin terrors of greed and envy. And greed and envy will just undo you. They're similar. They're not the same, though. Let me give you some examples. Greed is all about you having more. Envy is all about your neighbor having less. It's not that I wish I had more, it's that I wish that you didn't have what you've got. Greed wants you to compare yourself to others. Envy wants you to compete with others in this race to see who can acquire the most stuff. Greed makes us unhappy with what we have. Envy makes us insecure with who we are. Greed is obsessed with your neighbor's greener grass. You look over the fence. Why is his grass greener? Envy, it doesn't care about your neighbor's green grass. It just wants it to be brown. Yeah, that's exactly right. Greed is never satisfied. It's what John Ortberg calls the myth of the more. The idea that having more will finally make me happy. That's a myth, he says. But the more you get, the worse you feel, the more you want. When is enough enough? It's never enough. Nothing is ever enough. So if greed is this insatiable desire for more than you need, envy is an incurable fear that someone else has it better than you do, and you can't stand it. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Please don't take this personally, but it's because you're insecure and maybe just a scooch feeling inferior. I'm not going to tell anybody. That's our secret, okay, between you and me. If you'll keep my secret, which is I sometimes feel the same. I have friends who are more successful. They have more money, they have more stuff, they have more things. Sometimes I think that I should have more money, more stuff, more things. I should have what they have. Why hasn't God blessed me that way? I have friends who are held in higher regard than I am. They're thought of well, and sometimes I think I'm just thought of as, I have a friend who's a writer. I've read what he writes. I think I could write better than he does. I have friends who pastor churches that are growing fast. I think I'm a better pastor and preacher than they are. My last church didn't grow. In fact, it doesn't even exist today. I got to be honest. It sometimes bothers me. Why? Because I'm insecure and sometimes feel inferior. One of my friends is currently the president of the Southern Baptist Convention. His name's Clint Presley. I love Clint, and I don't want that job, but I think I would have been an excellent choice. Instead, I'm the executive director of a thriving nonprofit that sometimes struggles just to survive. Coveting is why you focus on what you don't have instead of being grateful for what you do have. Because God is good, and for all the things that I don't have or don't think I have, man, God's goodness, it's better than anything. You know, you ever get this little twinge of disappointment when somebody else gets the thing you wanted? It's how you react when your coworker gets the promotion instead of you. Your friend goes on the dream vacation and you're on the staycation again. It's that little twinge of disappointment when everybody else is getting married and having babies and you're still spouseless and childless. So I want to do more than just sort of name it, call it out. You know, it's one thing to say coveting is this, and it's real bad. Let me give you 2 antidotes that I've discovered for my own covetous spirit. First one is generosity. Generosity frees us from greed. I heard somebody put it like it's living life with an open hand instead of with a clenched fist. I take my accomplishments, my family, my career, my aspirations, my stuff and my things, and I hold them with a super tight grip because they are mine. The flip side is living with an open hand. That means I understand that nothing is mine. I'm not an owner. I'm a steward. That's the biblical word. Almost like a shepherd, you know. I've been given things to look after that don't belong to me. They belong to God. God gave it to me so that I could give it away. Generosity will help you overcome covetousness. Here's the other one. Gratitude. Gratitude, because it forces us to stop looking at what others have and start to appreciate what we've been given. It's a good, healthy habit for you to stop 3 times a day and bow your head and thank God for the plate of food in front of you. You and I have nothing that didn't come from Him. We need to acknowledge who it comes from. Every good and perfect gift comes from heaven above. Even this delicious cup of coffee, He grew the beans. Gratitude is huge. It's good to bow your head over a plate of food. I'll give you another habit of gratitude that I think is just phenomenal. And I don't do it every day, but when I do it, man, it makes a huge difference. And that is just to literally count my blessings. I used to do this with a legal pad. I guess the best way to do it now is on my phone and I've always felt it was important to date that list, you know. So you can go back to it and remember, you know, that on October 28th of 2024, I was having some hard times, you know. This morning at 12:30, I heard water running. And I got up and I walked down the hall. The toilet in the hallway bathroom is overflowing. Yeah, that's how my morning began. It's
Bowl runneth over.
It does, my bowl runneth over. It's been a long day already. So what I need to do today is instead of just focusing on the literal crap I'm dealing with, is to make a list of all the ways that God is blessing me. You know, one of the things I can include on that list is the fact that I have a toilet that may not be working right now, but when we go and build houses in Mexico, when we go to Juarez and build these houses, they don't include indoor plumbing. I have a house that has indoor plumbing. And so the fact that I've got a septic issue, that's really like a first world problem. that most of the world wouldn't consider a problem. So I need to get over myself a little bit, you know? And maybe I'll get a nap later today to make up for the sleep I lost last night. But I need to get over myself. Count your blessings. Remember that old hymn? Count your blessings. Name them one by one. Count your blessings. See what God has done. Count your blessings. Name them one by one. Count your many blessings. See what God has done. Every time I do this, every time I make a list, it's like one of those grocery lists where you write a thing down and then you remember another thing. Pretty soon you've made this long list of God's blessings that is a reminder of God's goodness in your life, that reminds you that when He passed out the cookies, you actually got a cookie, not just the crumbs. You got a really nice cookie, a really delicious cookie. God is good. Yeah, there's never been one moment in your life that God was not good to you. It's just that you sometimes don't see it. So gratitude and generosity actually operate as a doorway that helps you exit coveting and helps you to enter contentment. Oh, what is contentment? Contentment is feeling satisfied. You know that thing that Mick Jagger said he didn't have none of? I ain't got no satisfaction. Well, guess what? Contentment means satisfaction is available to you and to me, and it's found in Jesus. There's a man named Agur. I mean, you know that name, right? You've probably got some folks in your family who are named for the famous Old Testament character Agur. No? Huh. Well, he prayed this incredible prayer in Proverbs 30. He said this, "Give me neither riches nor poverty, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God." I don't want a lot. I don't really want just a little. I just need my daily bread, God. Just provide my daily bread. I'll be content with that. Paul says in Philippians 4, I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in want or in plenty. What's Paul saying? He's saying, I don't have to have more. I don't need to have more. I don't need to be more because Jesus is all sufficient. That means I don't need anything else. He is enough. Take everything else away. He is enough. I read this great quote. Pastor said, Jesus is a bottomless well of sufficiency for every need you have. You'll never exhaust His provision. You'll never deplete His grace. You'll never wear out His love and care for you. Love that. Or another way to say it is this. Jesus plus nothing is everything. And everything minus Jesus is nothing. That's all I got to say about that. Let me pray for you guys.
Thanks for listening to the 4Heroes podcast. Our goal, as always, is to offer hope and help to our listeners. 4Heroes exists to provide spiritual and emotional support to first responders and their families through active chaplaincy. If you're a part of the public safety community, we want to connect with you. If you're not a first responder, we'd love for you to get involved. You can start today in 3 specific ways. You can pray, give, and serve. Visit 4ourheroes.org to learn more about how you can support local heroes.